These motherfuckers got scraps too, don't get caught lacking. Y'all seen these old cowboy movies, you go to the bar, nigga, you about to get tried. You go out in the bar, you got there drinking with your brothers and that shit, then you about to get tried out here, but don't be caught lacking, don't kill your brother off some bullshit, man. Don't hurt your man. This is for protection only, man. I got family out this bitch, man. I got brothers out this bitch, I gotta protect. Somebody trying to run up on us, we lacking, we're gonna do vital. Fight a nigga with a machine gun. Now we're gonna bust your ass. We'll cut your head out and bring it back to the Lord, man. UPK shit, man. Hey, man. She say I'm obnoxious. Say I got way too much confidence. Say it's a problem. All I do is try to pull a woman. They say I'm a monster. But really, it ain't nothing. I'm just like my brothers. But shit, you know you look better with me, yeah. Girl, you know you look better with me. How I pull up and then shock. I do my dance on them, what the fuck? How I judge, run it up. Coming fast, girl, boy, stop, bitch. Okay, you know you look better with me. I pull up with lines. I'm a judo with a nigga pride. I'm just like a lion. Want my woman cook, clean, fuck, and shut the fuck up, yeah. I got bigger piles to worry about than you in the adultery. But shit, you know you ain't going nowhere. Hey, taking my move with the bass. Try to walk to the place. Ice on me, come and skate. You really a hoe wanna escape. Yeah, we up, fish your face. Or out, working what you think. Pretty girl, good taste. Wanna know all my traits. You know I'm on attention. I'm James Brown, they're the Israel. Bullets long, yeah, extensions. The nigga hate what they mention. I pull up how I'm gifted. I'm Mike Jacks with the fisting. Beat it like I'm Thriller. She say I'm obnoxious. Say I got way too much confidence. Say it's a problem. All I do is try to pull a woman. They say I'm a monster. But really, it ain't nothing. I'm just like my brothers. But shit, you know you look better with me, yeah. Girl, you know you look better with me. How I pull up and then shock. I do my dance on them, what the fuck? How I judge, run it up. You coming fast, girl, boy, stop, bitch. Okay, you know you look better with me, bitch, you basic. If you don't want a South Coast nigga, you chasing ranking. And really, you ain't even damn exquisite. And bitch, you fake it. Wanna rush a dog sick nigga. In the picture I painted. And I mean, everywhere I say T. Might give you some flavor. But I guess you ain't even wanna take it. Bitch, you outdated. And you done gave it up for some paper. You just like your main man. Start with 3 down, baby, daddy. Spit what you think. You were thinking with your damn bars, huh? You the type motherfucker wanna pull up, how the fuck when it fall, huh? Then beat it from the back, no damn attack, it was just for lunch, huh? Heard damn about pussy bitch, wanna talk shit on the low, huh? Want this everybody with, cause you don't even know how they say I'm obnoxious. Say I got way too much confidence, say it's a problem. All I do is try to pull a woman, they say I'm a monster. But really, it ain't nothing, I'm just like my brothers. But shit, you know you look better with me, yeah. Girl, you know you look better with me. How I pull up and then shock. I do my dance on them, what the fuck? How I judge, run it up. Coming fast, girl, boy, stop, bitch. Okay, you know you look better with me, dance. I don't know, trying to get right with the preacher, probably on the low, huh? What the fuck you talking about, girl? You already know what the fuck we on, huh? We ain't passing down bitches, but you get right, what you already know, huh?
They did the same thing to my people. So you said that they put millions of my taxes. Should a murderer go to jail for murdering? Absolutely. Should a thief go to jail when he steals? Absolutely. Should a robber pay back the money he robbed? Absolutely. So why shouldn't the white man pay for what he did? That's right. That's right.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a expected to grow. Just obstacle set in the road, that a result of me selling my soul. The story I'm telling is cold, but yet it's what everyone knows. The white man's the devil is known. America was never our home. Only a place of captivity, safe facility, hating disfigure me. They claim that I'm lazy, be killing me. Maybe this slavery draining my energy. 400 years and counting. The trail of my tears is countless. Main fact that I'm here is astounding, but I can't wait till this shit is surrounded. Ready to tangle, my king and the angel be ready to rap. Crack in the sky, nuclear missiles and make it official. I'm capturing every crack and surviving. Put them all in chains where they need to be. Slavery for me. And let the whole world see that with them in the cage and safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash. Get resolved for the beast. 144, get the ruler show, we could all be at peace. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now.
Do you see just how it feels? Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a
Look, ain't no remorse in my blood, Slim. It won't be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I buy gon' be Gen 5. I get it customized. And sending shots off like farewell. Praying payback come back around like a carousel. Still remember your Honda's words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in this body, you fit the Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choke, apply pressure to the game like I did Vondale. Payback's a bitch in a dress, she a bombshell. Revenge is served cold, I just hope they make an oxtail. Glock fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in the world of mass shooters. Devils design fire for our babies to pass through it. And the day of our king's reign, I'll be overzealous. They bought my jealous, I bought brand new parabellums.
Do you see just how it feels? Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog.
Hey, Shalom, Israel. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Barak the Thumb to the brothers watching. Yahweh Shemar Thumb Bashem, Yahweh Shai to the sisters watching. This is the ISUPK, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Hunter. We teach the truth about the Bible, the truth being that so-called Black, Hispanic, and North American Indians are the chosen people of God, the 12 tribes of Israel, and our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Now you're tuned in with priest and officer of 1,000, Howard Marman, ISUPK, Kentucky. And tonight, of course, is our Monday night history class. But before we get into it, man, I want to invite every so-called Black, Hispanic, and North American Indian to tune into our weekly content. Of course, Monday night, you got the history class taught by yours truly. Tuesday night, brotherhood class taught by officer of 1,000, I'm a Wonga boy. Wednesday night, we got the podcast, the baddest podcast around, the baddest podcast in Kentucky. Cry Out, Spirit Out podcast hosted by officers of 1,000, I'm a Wonga boy, and ISUPK. And come in here, these mighty men of the Lord under Commander General Hunter break down all of the viral videos going across your timeline. All right, all the viral videos on the internet right now. Come here, the biblical solution and the biblical breakdown to all of the viral videos going across the internet. All right, so Monday night, history class, Tuesday night, brotherhood class, Wednesday night, the podcast. Now, the topic of tonight's class. All right, I want to shout out the person that gave me the idea for doing this class. All right, I want to shout out the person that gave me the idea for doing this class. All right, topic of tonight's class, racism and medical care. Treatment isn't a conspiracy. The lack of it is. Now, priest, what do you mean by that? Ever since it was about the mid-2000s, probably 2008, 2009, right? 2007, right around this time period, you had a lot of anti-vaccine propaganda. All right. And this anti-vaccine propaganda was being pushed by Russian bots. All right. Russian bots online to push this propaganda that medicine is bad for you. All right. Then it got pushed into our communities. It got pushed into Black and brown communities through fake leaders like Rizza Islam, right, with the Nation of Islam. All right. And we already have a fear of doctors, all right, fear of going to the hospital, right, because of the history of the medical field, right, and dealing with Black and brown people. But we're gonna get rid of some of the myths tonight. All right, so we're gonna talk about what actually happened during the Tuskegee experiment. We're gonna talk about women like Henrietta Lacks, all right, the woman whose body was used for science without her consent. All right, we're gonna talk about the Black woman that invented the COVID-19 vaccine. All right, we're gonna talk about the history of scientific racism and medical racism. All right. And we're going to put a lot of untruths and a lot of conspiracy theories to bed tonight. All right. ISUPK, Kentucky, under Commander General Hunter, Monday night history class. We finna talk about racism and medical care. Treatment isn't the conspiracy. The lack of it is. All right. And we're going to show and prove. We're going to show and prove that it was never the medicine that was the problem. All right. It was never the treatment that was the problem. It was the lack of treatment. All right. It was the limited access to treatment. That's always been the problem when you're dealing with racism and the medical field. All right, so let's go ahead and walk this down for y'all. I'm finna lay this down nice and flat for y'all. All right, but first we have to talk about scientific racism. All right, scientific racism was the scientific belief that Black and brown people were inferior, that Black and brown people were closer to animals. All right. And how this persisted in the medical field. All right. How racism and the belief of white supremacy just simply transferred from the scientific realm to the medical realm. All right. So we got to start off with Charles Darwin. Now, here's a quote. Here's a quote out of his book, The Descent of Man. It says, at some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace throughout the world the savage races. All right. Meaning, Darwin believed that white people were going to exterminate black and brown people throughout the world, because according to 19th century so-called scientists, right, they believed that we were an inferior species of man. And we finna walk this down. And we're going to talk about how it moved from the scientific realm into the medical field. All right. Looking at the world at not so very distant date, what an endless number of the lower races will have been eliminated by the higher civilized races throughout the world. This is how Darwinism influenced Nazism and white nationalism. All right. It's the same thing being repeated from The Descent of Man. All right. And this is what was said about North American Indians. All right. Indians inhabiting this country were fierce savages. All right. So you have 19th century propaganda that's going to be pushed by people like Johann Blumenbach. And they're going to try to portray to the rest of the world how savage and how uncivilized black and brown people are. All right. Since enslaved people were first brought to this country, promoters of anti-black racism and white supremacy have co-opted the authority of science to justify racial inequality. A history of pseudoscientific methods proving white biological superiority. Now we're going to get into the medical field. White biological superiority and flawed social studies used to show inherent racial characteristics that still influence society today. And we're going to talk about how it influenced racism in the medical field. All right. In the case of American Indians, the work of physiologist Samuel Morton helped to justify their removal from their land in the 1830s and 40s. So just like anti-black racism was used to justify enslavement, all right, anti-Indian racism was used to justify the Indian Removal Act and the removal of the Indians out the South onto reservations in Oklahoma. All right, Morton's 1839 book, Crania Americana, details skull configurations and consequent mental capacities of the four separate species he defined, including whites and American Indians. His study of skulls concluded that American Indians' minds were different than that of the white man, and was cited in articles targeted at Western settlers encountering Native Americans. One article stated that American Indians were adverse to cultivation. All right, adverse to cultivation, slow in acquiring knowledge. This view of American Indians' existence in society as not conducive to industrialization and progress helped justify Andrew Jackson's Indian removal policies and continue taking the land of Native Americans. So again, just like anti-black racism was used to justify slavery, anti-Indian racism was used to justify forced removal and Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act. All right, now an excerpt from that book. This is a page from this book. All right, this is a page from this book by Morton. All right, and it's going to show what he thought of different skull shapes. All right, between white people and black and brown people. All right, so this is an image, of course, that he has of the white European. And here he tries to compare black and brown people to chimpanzees. All right. This is where this scientific racism is coming from. And we're going to show how that transferred into the medical field. All right. This is what these people actually believe about us. All right. This is what white people really feel. All right. This is what white people really feel. And again, it justified slavery and oppression. It justified forced removal of the Indians in the South. And they're going to use this to justify the inhumane treatment of black and brown people in the medical field. Now, they also tried to say that this is what makes black people criminals. All right. They're going to try to say that black people are inherently criminal because we're closer to chimpanzees. But sidebar real quick. Black people represent 14% of the population, but account for 53% of all people who were falsely convicted of a serious crime. All right. 14% of the U.S. population accounts for 53% of all people who have been falsely convicted of a crime. Black Americans are 7 times more likely than white people to be wrongfully convicted of homicide, SA, and drug offenses. All right. Black people are also 19 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a drug crime. All right. We are not the criminals. All right. We are not the criminals in this place. But back to business. Just a sidebar. All right. Scientists believe that this was necessary to keep the white American or Caucasian race from being pulled down by the inferiority of the black race. Another theory constructed by Johann Blumenbach stated that the non-white races were a degeneration of the superior white race, but that these inferior races may, over time, be able to physically return to being white if they were restored to white moral and cultural grounds. I'm going to show y'all in a minute when we get into some of this inhumane treatment in the medical field that white people don't have any morality. All right. I'm going to show y'all when we get into what was done to us in the medical field, it's going to prove what the ISUPK has been saying since 1969. All right. The white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. And these people don't have any moral integrity at all. They don't have any moral ground to stand on. They have no moral ground to stand on. We finna walk this down tonight. All right. Francis Galton. All right. He was the first cousin of Charles Darwin and known as the father of eugenics. Now, eugenics, if you don't know, eugenics was the practice of getting people not to procreate. All right. It was done through sterilization in the early 1900s, and it's done through Planned Parenthood abortion facilities today. Let's walk. Scientific racism is an ideology that appropriates the methods and legitimacy of science to argue for the superiority of white Europeans and the inferiority of non-white people whose social and economic status have been historically marginalized. All right, historically marginalized. Like eugenics, scientific racism grew out of the misappropriation of revolutionary advances in what? Medicine. All right, the misappropriation of revolutionary advances in medicine. Anatomy and statistics during the 18th and 19th centuries, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution through mechanism and natural selection. That's why I had to start. That's why I had to start with Charles Darwin. All right. Charles Darwin is where this whole idea of scientific racism comes from. And again, I'm showing y'all how this is going to lead into racism in the medical field. All right. Mendel's law of inheritance Eugenic theories of scientific racism drew support of contemporary xenophobia. Xenophobia is just a fancy way of saying racism, y'all. Okay? So what they're saying is the so-called inferiority of black and brown people is inherent. All right. According to white scientific racists of the 19th century, they said that we're born inferior. Black and brown people are born inferior. All right. All right. August 1964, North Carolina Eugenics Board met to decide if a 20-year-old black woman should be sterilized because her name was redacted from the records. We'll call her birthday. Now this is part of the inhumane treatment. All right. This woman that was sterilized, we don't even have her name. We don't even have this woman's name, y'all. This is a part of the inhumane treatment. We're not even given the credit to even have a name. Now think about what that means. All right, think about what that means. And we showed you earlier how these people tried to compare us to chimpanzees. All right, Berkeley story is one of 35,000 sterilization stories. We are reconstruction at the Sterilization and Social Justice Lab. Our interdisciplinary team explores the history of eugenics and sterilization in the U.S. Eugenics applied emerging theories of biology and genetics to human breeding. Again, we're going to talk about how scientific racism of the 19th century is going to be transferred to racism in the medical field. White elites with strong biases about who is fit and unfit embraced eugenics, believing American society would be improved by increased breeding of Anglo-Saxons and Nordics, aka white folks, who they assumed had high IQs. Anyone who did not fit this mold of racial perfection, which included Black and Indigenous people, became the targets of eugenics programs. Now, again, back in the early 1900s, it was done through sterilization. And nowadays, it's done through Planned Parenthood abortion clinics. So we're going to talk about the origin of Planned Parenthood here in a minute. All right, Paul Barringer, what did he do? All right, 1900. All right, Dr. Paul Brandon Barringer, chairman of the faculty at University of Virginia and professor of medicine, took the stage before a Tri-State Medical Association of Virginia and the Carolinas. His task was to explain what he and many other whites of the time considered to be the rapid increase of the Negro and his relatively greater increase in crime. We just proved that we're not the real criminals. We just proved that 14% of the population make up 53% of the people that's been falsely convicted of a crime. According to Barringer, rigid hereditary determinism held dire consequences for Black Americans because it predetermined the absolute limit of Black social events. Black Americans' generic tendency to savagery doomed them to revert to primitive. Again, these people try to compare us to animals. All right. These people try to prove scientifically that we were closer to animals than they are. And I'm going to show you what they did with those beliefs, what they did to us in the medical field. All right. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Tuskegee experiment began in 1932 as U.S. Public Health Service medical personnel conducted these tests without the benefit of patients' informed consent. We're going to talk about the Tuskegee experiment here in a minute. Now, the Tuskegee experiment, all right, it is a false belief that a lot of us have that the medical field was giving Black people syphilis. All right. It is a myth in our communities. It's a myth in our communities that the medical field was giving Black people syphilis in these Tuskegee experiments. But the truth is, these Black and brown people already had the disease. And what was done is that the medical field wanted to see what syphilis would look like if it ran its course. So what happened was Black people weren't getting the treatment they needed. All right, again, the topic of tonight's class is treatment is not the conspiracy. The lack of treatment is the conspiracy. All right, researchers told subjects that they were being treated for bad blood, a local term which described a multitude of illnesses, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. However, none of the subjects received the proper care promised to them. The men were deceived by the PHS, who never informed them of their syphilis diagnosis and provided disguised placebos and ineffective treatments. This is what actually happened in the Tuskegee experiment. All right. Black and brown people weren't given syphilis, y'all. All right. That's one myth we're going to get rid of tonight. All right. Black and brown people that were going to these doctors already had syphilis. And how wicked the white man is, wanted to see what syphilis would do to Black people if it ran its course. So these people were given placebos. These people were given fake treatments. These people were given fake treatments by the medical field. All right, again, topic of tonight's class. Treatments are not the conspiracy. The lack of treatments are. All right, it was the lack of treatments that caused the death of something like 300 people in the Tuskegee experiment, because the white man just wanted to see what syphilis would do to Black people if it ran its course. All right, again, the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. All right, here's an image of some devil giving a fake shot. All right, some like 300 people died from this Tuskegee experiment because people that were already infected with syphilis were given fake shots, were given placebos, all right, fake cures, and something like 300 people died from it. All right, despite their disproportionate health burdens, Black women historically have largely been excluded from clinical research, which has primarily focused on white males. All right, Black women have historically been excluded from clinical research, which is focused primarily on white males. Let's walk this down. This is important. All right, this is important. Nobody loves Black women more than the ISUPK. All right, nobody loves Black women more than the ISUPK. All right, Black women report experiencing disproportionate levels of unfair treatment in healthcare settings. For example, 1 in 5, about 21% of Black women say they have been treated unfairly by a healthcare provider or their staff because of their racial or ethnic background. A similar 22% of Black women who have been pregnant or gave birth in the past 10 years say they were refused pain medication. All right, 22% of pregnant Black women, while giving birth, were refused pain medication. All right, again, the treatment is not the conspiracy. The lack of treatment is the real conspiracy. 22% of Black women who gave birth were refused pain medication. All right, the U.S. has the highest maternal mortality rates. All right, the U.S. has the highest maternal mortality rates, according to the CDC. And even within this context, the likelihood of dying from a pregnancy-related cause is 2.5 times higher for Black women than it is for white women. All right? Dying from a pregnancy-related cause is 2.5 times higher for Black women than white women. Why? Because Black women are not getting the treatment that they need. We just read that 20% of Black women are refused pain medication while they're giving birth. All right, in a recent study, the National Institutes of Health found that healthcare providers were less likely to identify pain and the facial expressions of black people. Are you fucking kidding me? This has to be a joke. But the source is right here. All right. Healthcare providers are less likely to identify pain in the facial expressions of black people. All right. The white man is the devil, y'all. I'm going to say this a lot tonight. The white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. All right. Throughout history, black women have been exploited and stigmatized in the name of scientific and medical advancement. From invasive gynecological experiments on black women done by Marion Sims to the utilization of Henrietta Lacks cells without her consent, black women have been pivotal, yet involuntary contributors to medical key breakthroughs. And we're going to talk about this. All right, black women have been tortured. Are you hearing me? Black women have been tortured to perfect surgical procedures. When untreated for syphilis, were unknowingly sterilized, and have had their genetic material stolen and used to achieve some of the greatest medical advances known to humanity. All right. Again, topic of tonight's class is treatments are not the conspiracy. The lack of treatments are the real conspiracy. All right. There's the COVID-19 vaccine is not a conspiracy. The fact that white people didn't want black people to have it, that's the conspiracy. That's the real conspiracy. All right. Marion Sims is often considered the father of gynecology for his work on discovering a surgical cures for childbirth complications. Sims perfected this surgical technique by operating on non-consenting black women without anesthesia. Are y'all hearing this? Are y'all hearing this? All right. Known as the father of gynecology, Sims perfected this surgical technique by operating on non-consenting black women without anesthesia. Many of these women underwent repeated torturous procedures, with some having as many as 30 operations. The disregard for black women's consent and the belief that black women have a higher threshold for pain are examples of the historical artifacts of anti-black racism that are foundational to the healthcare institution. Are you hearing what this is saying? Are you hearing what this is saying? All right, black women being operated on without anesthesia, pregnant black women being denied pain medication is the foundation of the healthcare institution, y'all. All right, that is the foundation of the healthcare institution. All right, the U.S. Public Health Service untreated syphilis study at Tuskegee is another glaring example of the exploitation of black people and the complete disregard for the health of black women. In the Tuskegee study, black men were left untreated and uninformed about syphilis so doctors could study the natural progression of an untreated syphilis infection. The wives of these men were ignored, unknowingly unprotected, and untreated, and often gave birth to children with congenital syphilis. The sterilization of black women and other women of color was a state-sanctioned medical procedure that disproportionately targeted marginalized women in the 20th century. It was so common that it was colloquially referred to as the Mississippi appendectomy, a term coined by activist Stanley Lou Hamer, who in 1961 was sterilized without consent after seeking treatment to remove a tumor. From 1950 to 1966, black women in North Carolina were sterilized at more than 3 times the rate of white women. Black women were sterilized at a rate of 3 times more than white women. One of the most notable cases of informed consent violations involves a black woman named Henrietta Lacks. Lacks sought treatment for cervical cancer at Johns Hopkins University in 1951. She died from the disease, but not before doctors took and shared samples of her tissue without consent. Her cells, which have the unique ability to survive and reproduce, have led to dozens of scientific and medical breakthroughs. Despite the immense scientific advancements made with her genetic material, it wasn't until 2023, more than 70 years later, that Henrietta Lack's descendants reached a settlement with the Thermo Fisher Scientific for the use of HeLa cells, highlighting a systemic culture in which Black women are expected to contribute to the greater good without ever having proper acknowledgement. And here she goes right here. All right, her body was used for medical advancements without her consent. All right, this Black woman's body was used. This Black woman's body was used by the medical field without her consent. Descendants of Henrietta Lacks, whose cells were harvested without her permission and used to make millions of dollars, have reached a settlement with the biotech company that say they profited from a racist medical system. Her cells went on to become the cornerstone of modern medicine. All right, Henrietta Lacks, this Black woman whose body was used for medical purposes without her consent, became the cornerstone of modern medicine, enabling countless scientific and medical innovations, including the development of the polio vaccine, genetic mapping, and even COVID-19. All right, Margaret Sanger. Now, I said earlier that sterilization was used in the early 1900s, and today, Planned Parenthood and abortions are used for the same purpose. All right, the birth control movement and the population control movement became inseparable in people's minds during the early years of the birth control movement, led by Margaret Sanger in 1915. Population control referred to a large-scale social policy of limiting births throughout a whole society or in certain groups for the purpose of changing economic, ecological, and political conditions. Population control ideas were dominated by eugenics and marred by racism in the United States. All right, here's a quote from Margaret Sanger. She said, "The most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it." All right, white people are psychopathic, y'all. Salakia. White people are psychopaths. The founder of Planned Parenthood said the most merciful thing a large family can do to one of its infant members is to kill it. All right, white people are psychopaths, y'all. All right, another quote from Margaret Sanger. "We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." All right, Planned Parenthood's objective was to exterminate Black and brown people. Planned Parenthood's main objective was to commit genocide on Black and brown people. All right, she started the Negro Project in 1939 with the aim of expanding birth control in Black communities. Now, here's what happened. 1939, W.E.B. Du Bois, the so-called great Black leader. All right, the so-called great Black leader. Well, in 1939, he worked for Margaret Sanger. As a matter of fact, he was advisory counsel for Margaret Sanger's Negro Project. And what was his job? His job was to push abortions on Black people in the South. All right. He took his slick talking ass down South, and his job was to push abortions on Black people in the South. All right. His good King's English talking ass, he went down South and convinced Black people to abort their babies. All right. In the 70s, in the 1970s, 42% of Native American women on the reservation were sterilized. Can you imagine this? This is the animal. This is the animal that we are oppressed under. This is the animal that has his knee on our neck right now. says 42% of Native American women on the reservation were sterilized. Now, since everybody loves the Clintons, this is what Hillary said about Margaret Sanger. Says, I admire her enormously, her courage, tenacity, and vision. All right, her vision was to commit genocide on Black and brown people. Now, Tim Walz, all right, he was Kamala Harris's running mate, wanted to make it legal to coerce women into having abortions. This was Kamala Harris's running mate. All right, 2010 census results reveal that Planned Parenthood is targeting minority neighborhoods. 79% of abortion facilities are within walking distance of Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. 79% of abortion clinics are within walking distance of Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. Again, Planned Parenthood, the goal of Planned Parenthood was to commit genocide on Black and brown people. And now we have silly women like this. Now we have silly, simple women like this. All right. Now, vaccines. All right. Vaccines. Like I said earlier, because of Russian propaganda, right around 2007 on YouTube, we have this whole anti-vaccination movement. All right. And because of fake Black leaders like Rizza Islam, Black people have jumped on the anti-vax bandwagon. Well, I'm going to give y'all the origin of vaccines. Did y'all know that a Black man invented vaccines? Did y'all know that a Black man named Onesimus invented vaccines? All right, 1700s, Onesimus shared a revolutionary way to prevent smallpox. All right, the news was terrifying to colonists in Massachusetts. Smallpox had made it to Boston and was spreading rapidly. The first victims, passengers on a ship from the Caribbean, were shut up in a house identified only by a red flag that read, God have mercy on this house. Meanwhile, hundreds of residents of the colonial town have started to flee for their lives, terrified of what might happen if they exposed themselves to the deadly disease. They had a reason to fear the virus was extremely contagious, spreading like wildfire in large epidemics. Smallpox patients experienced fever, fatigue, and a crusty rash that could leave disfiguring scars, and it killed 30% of its cases. But the smallpox epidemic of 1721 was different than any other that came before it. As sickness swept across the city, and we're talking about Boston, killing hundreds in a time before modern medical treatment, an enslaved man known as Onesimus suggested a potential way to keep people from getting sick. Intrigued by Onesimus's idea, a brave doctor and an outspoken minister undertook a bold experiment to try to stop smallpox in its tracks. Onesimus' slave master did not trust him. He wrote about having to watch him carefully due to what he thought was thievish behavior, and recorded in his diary that he was wicked and useless. Ain't that a bitch? But in 1716, Onesimus told him something he did not believe, or that he did believe. He knew how to prevent smallpox. All right, this Black man, all right, that was enslaved in Boston in the 1700s, had a cure for smallpox. Let's read about it. All right, Onesimus said that he had undergone an operation which had given him something of the smallpox and would forever preserve him from it. And whoever had the courage to use it was forever free of the fear of contagion. The operation Onesimus referred to consisted of rubbing pus from an infected area, pus from an infected person, onto an open wound on the arm. This was done in a controlled manner, so the symptoms would be milder, but still confer immunity. Once the infected material was introduced into the body, The person who underwent the procedure was inoculated against smallpox. All right, this is the origin of vaccines. All right, take a little bit of the sickness and rub it on an open wound. That's the same thing they do. That's the same thing they do with vaccines today. All right, vaccines were created by a black man who was enslaved in Boston named Onesimus. All right, vaccines are a part of black culture. Vaccines are a part of black culture. But because of Russian propaganda, we have this anti-vax movement. And because of fake leaders like Rizza Islam, you have black people that's been pulled on to the bandwagon. All right. Vaccines were invented by black people. Vaccines are a part of black culture. All right. In 1980, the World Health Organization declared smallpox entirely eradicated through the spread of immunization worldwide. It remains the only infectious disease to have been entirely wiped out. All right, smallpox is the only infectious disease to have been entirely wiped out. Because of a vaccine that was created by a black man named Onesimus. All right, because of a black man named Onesimus, smallpox is the only infectious disease that's been entirely wiped out. Now let's talk about this black woman, this brilliant black woman, who's the key scientist behind the COVID-19 vaccine. All right, this brilliant black woman was the key scientist behind the COVID-19 vaccine. Let's read about it. All right, the nation's top infectious disease expert, all right, and constant presence on TV during the coronavirus pandemic, was asked a blunt question during a forum he hosted last week by the National Urban League. Can you talk about the impact and the input of African-American scientists on the vaccine process? The very vaccine, all right, that has 94 to 95% efficiency against clinical disease and almost 100% against serious disease that is shown to be clearly safe, that vaccine was actually developed in my institute's Vaccine Research Center by a team of scientists led by Dr. Barney Graham and his close colleague, Dr. Kismiga Corbett. She is an African-American scientist who was right at the forefront of the development of the vaccine. All right, this brilliant black woman, this scientist, this doctor, was at the forefront of the development of the COVID-19 vaccine. This woman saved countless lives. All right, this black woman saved countless lives. All right, Corbett is an expert on the front lines of the global race for SARS-CoV-2 vaccine and someone who will go down in history as one of the key players in developing the science that could end the pandemic. All right, this brilliant black woman is going to go down in history for her role in the development of the COVID-19 vaccine. Here she goes. Here she goes. I told you nobody loves black women more than the ISUPK under Commanding General Rihanna. Now here's the problem. Unfortunately, the data shows disparities in vaccine uptake by race and ethnicity, which we also saw when the bivalent vaccine was introduced last year. The proportions of Black adults and Hispanic adults who received an updated COVID-19 vaccine were nearly half of that of white adults, meaning Black and brown people were getting vaccinated at half the rate as white people. All right, Black and brown people were being vaccinated at half the rate of white people. It says there are many social, geographic, political, economic, and environmental factors create challenges to vaccination access. We talked earlier about how Black people were being denied the medical treatment that was needed. How Black men in the Tuskegee experiment were being denied proper medication to treat syphilis. We talked about how Black women were being denied pain medication at childbirth. Well, now we just call it vaccination access. But it's the same thing. All right, it's the same thing. All right, Black and brown people were being treated for COVID-19 at half the rate as white people. We just call it vaccination access. And that often affects racial and ethnic minority groups. The CDC continues to address vaccine inequities and challenges to vaccine access. All right, all this is that Black and brown people are not given the access to medication that we need. All right, we were not getting the same access to the COVID-19 vaccine that white people were. All right, we were not given the same access to the COVID-19 vaccine that white people were. And it's right at the CDC. All right, let's drop that. Let's go ahead and end this off with the Bible. All right, this is what we do. All right, Ecclesiasticus 38:1. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him, for the uses which ye may have of him, for the Lord hath created him. All right, the Lord hath created him. That brilliant Black woman that's responsible for the COVID-19 vaccine, all right, the Lord created that. All right, we need to get rid of this fear of medication. All right, we need to get rid of this fear of medication. All right, the Black woman responsible for the COVID-19 vaccine, the Lord created that. All right, the Bible says, honor a physician with the honor due unto him. All right, so we'll go ahead and drop that. All right, I want to appreciate y'all hanging out with me. All right, soaking up some of this game. All right, Lord willing, every Monday night, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. All right, ISUPK Kentucky Monday night history class. Tuesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Brotherhood class. And Wednesday night, Cry Out, Spirit Not podcast, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. All right, with that, we'll do one courtesy salute. All right, shalom. Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah Barakatham, Yahweh Shemalatham, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah. Class dismissed.
Top, man, shit. Make sure you let these niggas know what time it is, man. You know what I'm saying? Get on this motherfucker. Let these niggas know what time it is, you understand? We royalty.
King Ty really one of the realest. I survived drive-bys from them killers. Like I got 9 lives, I got 9 wives. I said fine wine with them bitches. I'm spitting fire bombs in your city. I got like 8 or 9 niggas with me. And we all ready to die in a minute. One West, we the best in the business. I get offended, I fuck niggas offended. Talking they get it, but niggas is timid. Rappers is softer than linen. Catch me out parking lot pimping. What more could I give them? I've been the hottest forever. Why would I lie about cheddar? I could do better. I just put loyalty first. Royalty coming whenever. Pull off in the Jetta. Curvature, you me, you sweater. My fault like wearing a sweater in summertime weather. Haters so salty, no pepper. You not that seasoned or clever. I'm with the rebel. Used to pump bass with the treble. Baking a cake in a kettle. I used to cook up the work. Now I just cook with the metal. Gotta keep foot to the pedal. Yeah, let me give it gas on the highway. Let the music blast on the calm day. Break the Glock down into 3 parts. Put the 3 together like my Najee. Sipping like Bombay with my enclave. Got my mind made. Ain't no time waste. No. Eating prime steak with a fine date at a fine place. Getting violated.
Hey, listen. I already told these niggas. You understand? I called up King Ty. He say, what's up? I said, what's good, my lord? Listen, he like, listen. These niggas ain't ready for none of this. You understand? I said, listen, if the nigga ain't One West, he ain't got on his arm or his chest. I don't give a fuck about the nigga. It's just me and my niggas. We royalty, yeah.
I got the hammer, you running, man. Come through your window like brother man. Snapping your neck like a rubber band. Talk to my dog like the sun is saying. He told me murder you rappers. Uppercut sending you vertical actors. Y'all got me coming with verbal attackers. I might attack you type physical too. Way I be rhyming, the way I be shining, I'm blinding these rappers like Mr. Magoo. These haters miserable, we indivisible. Look at these haters like they got no clue. They hold up ones and them W's. Really, bro, don't get too comfortable. If you ain't cut from the cloth, co-signed by the boss, then we do not fuck with you. Cause you wouldn't last here. I told you the same shit last year. Already told. Keep talking that trash, I have a car, come kick your ass here. Already know. Your jaw like glassware. We pull up, not rocking no mask there. Don't care if you spot us, you know how you got us. It's over, you saying your last prayer.